In continuation to our introductory video on financial ratios, we are now going to deep dive into liquidity ratios. As I explained in the fundamentals to financial ratios, liquidity ratio is one of them. And let's quickly take a look and understand what does liquidity mean. So liquidity means liquid assets that are at your disposal. You are able to easily convert them into cash. So from a business perspective, it could include cash like assets, shares, gold coins, inventories, etc. Now, what does a liquidity ratio mean? So a ratio, again, as we saw in the introductory video, it is a mathematical computation. Again, we take a couple of variables from the financial statement, and then we try to gauge the position, the liquidity position of the company. So company or business, I will use the words both company and business interchangeably, so please don't get confused. Now, what does this computation mean? It determines the ability of the business to pay its short-term debts. Short-term is like any debts which falls within a period of 1 to 12 months, that's less than a year. So the ability of a business to pay these short-term debts, these short-term obligations, without borrowing any external funds. So there are three aspects to it. So first aspect is like a company's ability to pay the short-term debts, and the next is like without borrowing, without depending on any external capital, and it is all computed for a short term, for a short period of time from 1 to 12 months. Okay, and from a financial perspective, this ratio is said to be the margin of safety, setting the margin of safety, determining the margin of safety for the business. So we will look at that in more detail. So current ratio, as we see here, is one of the liquidity ratios, and it's computed by using a very simple formula, which is like current assets divided by current liabilities. So now what are current assets? So they are again assets at your disposal which you can convert into cash, which is liquid, within a period of 12 months. And what are current liabilities? They are the liabilities that you owe to other parties. You are obliged to make those payments within a period of 12 months. So this is how you actually theoretically calculate it. And so when you compute it, you are going to arrive at a ratio. So now the next question is, what is the ideal current ratio? So what's a good ratio? Whether it's 0, 1, 2, 3, what's the ideal ratio? So there is no specific benchmark here. There's no specific industry set benchmark here. However, there is an overall understanding, and it's more logical as well. It's acceptable if your current ratio is greater than 1. Okay, so now let's look at a scenario where the current ratio happens to be 2. So what does that mean for the business? So it simply means that the business is in a good position to pay off the debts. Its assets, current assets, are twice as much as their current liabilities, which means they have more assets at their disposal. They are easily able to address their debtors. So it's a safe position. It is a healthy position. It's a safe position. So if I were to see a company with a current ratio of 2 and another company with a current ratio of 1, I would obviously be favoring the business or the company with a higher current ratio. So that's more of a understanding. However, there is always a flip side to it. You have limitations. This computation cannot be carried out blindly. So there are some limitations. So what is the limitation? So as we just saw, like a couple of slides ago, we just saw that current assets include inventories. Now inventories has like certain stages. You got the raw materials, you got the work in progress, and you got the final products. So the final products is the only one which is convertible, which is liquid, which can be easily converted into cash. However, raw materials and work in progress, they are mere inventories. They cannot be converted, right? They have to go through the process. There is a gestational period until it is converted into the final product. So until then, we realistically cannot call it as a liquid asset. So that is one of the catch points. So we have to keep in mind to investigate thoroughly before we arrive at any conclusions. So now, what's the mitigation strategy? What are the ways in which we can address this limitation while we are computing the current asset ratio of a business? So the main strategy we could follow is to eliminate using the inventory variables. So when we remove the inventory variables from the current assets, automatically this limitation is kind of removed. So we are just looking at current assets excluding inventories. So it's like current assets, reduce the inventories of the current assets, then compute the current ratio. That will be a more of a realistic position, and it's called the quick asset ratio, or it's called the acid test ratio. So there are a couple of names to it, but that's the sort of the mitigation strategy when you are trying to compute the liquidity ratio. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to clarify. Post your comments, or like feel free to send me an email. I will be more than happy to clarify. So this is sort of a very beginner level knowledge, which is again going to form the foundations for your other advanced computations in finance. So yeah, when you're learning it, learn it passionately, and have a complete holistic understanding. And yeah, and I think that makes your learning journey more enriching and fulfilling. Have a good one. We'll soon meet another video where we will discuss the other types of other types of financial ratios. See you. Take care.